Welcome to this next Q&A of ours. I don't know why I said it like that. But I'm excited. We have some very good questions.
I'm excited. I haven't seen any of these.
Sometimes when we do these videos, I wish every episode was just us doing Q&As.
I completely agree.
That would be a fun sub podcast.
Because not only are we funny, but we're silly.
We are. And I'm just comfortable enough with you that we can just like really riff in a way that's sometimes harder with like guests that I don't know that well or that are like professionals in the field. I love those episodes. I think they bring a lot to the table, but
that's a sub podcast.
Yeah,
let
it's
us
just
know if you
us
want
answering questions. I kind of like that idea actually. So, okay, let's just jump right in. Ready?
Okay.
First question: Be straight up. Wait, hold on. Be straight up with me. Love this woman already. Guys following Instagram models. Red flag or no?
Okay. I will say it depends on how many. There is nothing.
How many? Okay.
There is nothing uglier to me than when you go to a guy's following and it's all Instagram models.
I completely agree with that. I think that there is...
That screams porn addiction to me.
I completely agree. I think that there's a difference between somebody following like a few key select beautiful models that they happen to think are very pretty and somebody who like you can't scroll for more than a second without getting another Instagram model, another Instagram model. And also, this is going to sound insane, and maybe this is just a very personal thing. To me, there's a difference between a guy who follows Instagram models, and by Instagram models, I mean Instagram models. I mean millions of followers, unattainable, and guys following like hot girls with 1,000 followers. Yeah, that to me is not an Instagram model.
Yeah, but they post like bikini pics.
Exactly. Because I'm like, that's somebody that feels like it's like attainable. It feels more like
just Sarah from next door.
Yes, exactly. It feels like somebody you're genuinely trying to connect with or get with or whatever the case is.
You were hoping she'd follow you back.
Right. Exactly. Versus like you follow like I don't know, Chantel Jeffries. That bitch is not following. Derek from down the block back. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like she's not.
She puts hard eyes in his picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think one of those is more of just like, she's beautiful. This is like a fantasy. Personally, I find that okay. I can understand when women don't, though.
I agree. And again, it's about how many.
I agree. I think there's definitely like a line. But also, we've talked about this a lot on the show. I am of the firm belief that if something makes your partner uncomfortable and it's not a big deal, just don't do it. Yeah. Even if you're like, well, I'm not doing anything. Who cares? If it makes her uncomfortable for you to follow Instagram models, is it really that big of a deal for you to continue following them?
I also do think that there's something so icky about a guy who will comment like hard eyes on those girls' pictures.
Okay, and yes, that's another thing, engaging.
Yeah.
There's a difference between just like following them, thinking they're cute, maybe even liking the photos, and commenting is a red flag. There's something about
but it's also an ick. Like, I don't want some fucking loser that's like commenting on my you know what I mean?
Yes, it's like, because I think about a big Instagram model, right? They have a lot of male followers who think they're beautiful. They also have a lot of women followers who think that they're like, they're like, I want to dress like them, or I want to do my makeup like them. They're inspo for them. And the worst thing in the world is the idea of like my partner commenting hard eyes on an Instagram model and then like a friend of mine who follows her seeing it. It's so embarrassing.
It's also just like, they're not going to get anything out of it. So it's like, why are you doing it?
Right. Exactly. To me, it's very weird. So yeah, I think that there is a line. I think it can be a red flag. I don't think every instance
it necessarily is
of it is a red flag. Absolutely not. Because Ryan follows Instagram models, but he's not icky about it. It's very obviously this kind of like, it's a running joke in your relationship. Yes. And he does that funny thing where he like kisses the fight. It's like it's a bit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like, it doesn't need to be that unserious for it to not be a red flag, but like, that's a good example of like Ryan being like, she's just this unattainable Instagram model.
Because it's
she's
also
pretty.
So normal to find other people attractive, like we said on this podcast before.
Yeah.
And it's okay to follow. I mean, I follow hot guys.
Right, exactly. Like, I have Instagram crushes too.
Exactly. But when it's like obviously your entire feed, that's weird to me.
It's very weird. It can't be your entire feed. It can't be like attainable women in the sense that they're just like hot, like college girls with
Yoga
1,000 followers.
instructors.
Yeah. You cannot be engaging, and it can't be your whole feed. So I think that there's a balance where it is okay and then it turns into a red flag.
I completely agree.
But I don't think it's always a red flag. I don't think that some girl should be seeing a guy and things are going well, and then she sees that he follows, Addison Rae and is immediately like, okay, red flag, bye.
What the fuck is this?
Maybe actually Addison Rae is a red flag because of her age. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Next question. My girlfriend and I have an incredible relationship. We've been together about a year and we get along great. We have a great sex life, and although shy at first, she's opened up and gotten comfortable with me, and I'm totally satisfied. The other night we were out to dinner and got to talking about wild stories from our sexual past. Here's where it gets tricky. She told me that when she was in college, she regularly hooked up with a married man who was 20 years older than her. The man had an entire family. I'm not saying she seemed proud of what she did, but she also brushed it off as simply an immature and wild time in her life. Am I wrong to see this as a serious character flaw?
All right. So,
yeah. The way that he's describing it is almost that she was just like, yeah, I was crazy back then.
Yeah, she's
you know what I mean?
Like it was a silly thing as opposed to not being a homewrecker.
Exactly. Versus being like, you know what? I did this. It was fucked up and I feel really bad about it, but I wanted to be honest. Versus being like, you want to hear a fun, crazy, wild sex story. You know what I mean?
You're so right.
That's different.
The reaction after the fucked up thing is what really matters to me.
Exactly.
Because I understand people have their dark side. I mean, I fucking do. Like,
we've all done fucked up shit.
Yes. But it's about how you react to it. And I completely agree, because if this person feels okay wrecking a whole family,
yeah,
it's like, to me, as a person that's done this, that's a red flag for cheating.
I was thinking the same thing. To me, it's like you don't respect the boundaries of relationships.
You also don't take it seriously.
So how can I trust that you'll respect ours?
Yeah.
And it's very possible this person has grown out of that.
Yeah.
And that this person was, I am a vastly different person than I was when I was 22. And there are things that I could have justified then that I would never have justified now.
1,000,000%.
But I don't know if I would say it's a serious, he asked, is this a serious character flaw? I don't know if I would say it's a serious character flaw. I think it could be. I don't know her well enough. I think it's cause for concern.
Yeah, I think I would bring it up.
I'd bring it up too. I'd be like, I'm going to be honest. You kind of said this
right with me.
So casually, and I think that's what's kind of not sitting right with me. I'm not judging you for your past, but I am sort of judging you for the way that you're reacting to it now as a grown woman.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that it's one of those things that it's like, maybe you didn't have great judgment at the time, but like how you are treating it now says more about the situation.
I completely agree. I think it's definitely worth another conversation. Like I said, I don't think it's a serious character flaw. I think it could be. I think
messy.
I think you'll get the answer you need from having a conversation, to be honest. I think that you'll have a conversation, and if you put it out there that you're concerned about this, and she's like, what do you mean? It's like not that big of a deal. I was in college, or like, makes it very clear she doesn't really feel bad about what she did, or tries to make excuses. Well, they weren't sleeping together anymore. Whatever the case.
Yep.
You'll have your answer.
Yeah.
Versus if she's like, oh, I kind of just like didn't want to like dampen the mood of dinner. I just didn't want it to be this like therapy session. I do feel bad. That was really messed up what I did.
People kind of, honestly, it sucks to say, but people have to feel guilt.
Yes.
And if I don't see that you feel guilt, that is a
serious character
That's a red flag to me.
If you've done something to someone that has really hurt them or fucked up, or something that's like very obviously objectively black and white wrong, and you don't feel bad about it, that is way worse than actually doing the wrong thing.
I agree.
So I think it's worth another conversation. And this is one of those situations that is rare, but I believe that you will have one conversation about this and you'll get all of the answers you need. Next question. I recently broke up with my boyfriend of 3 years. There were a lot of reasons, but we don't have to get into it. He was completely devastated, which I empathized with, and we had a lot of emotional talks afterwards. It's been a month, and I thought things were okay. But about a week ago, he randomly texted me with an extremely extensive list of everything he has ever given to me or possibly left at my apartment, and demanded it back immediately. I'm talking Valentine's Day gifts from our first year together. My friends think I should ignore it and block him. I'm very confused on how to navigate this. That is It's an intense man.
This man is
That's a water sign man. If I
out
ever
for blood.
I could tell you, I know very little about astrology. You know, I know it kind of from a pop culture reference. I could tell you without a shadow of a doubt, this is a water sign man.
This guy is a bruised water.
Absolutely.
That's fucking crazy.
It is. I will say, we've talked about this on the show, but it's so funny how this is such a recurring pattern. In my experience in heterosexual relationships, women feel it all immediately.
Yep.
Men, it takes like a month.
Yeah,
it takes like a month, sometimes even longer.
I'm sure there's a science behind how men process things differently than women. Like,
yes.
I'm sure there's a thing.
Yes.
But to the level that this man is processing it, where he feels anger. He's not even sad anymore.
He's like, he's in the anger phase.
I want my shit back.
Yes, absolutely.
But, not that this is a legal podcast, isn't there a thing that once you gift something to somebody, it's theirs?
He has no legal right to what he's doing. If he tried to take this through a lawyer, that would be batshit insane.
What's the fucking gift tax?
This is very obviously his anger stage of grief.
I would block him and never speak to the man again.
I actually very much agree with your friends. If you really want to, you know, if you really, really still...
You can send him a message that says, what the fuck is wrong with you? But don't do that.
If you really care about this person and you kind of want to try to, you know...
Empathize
and maybe try to like snap some sense into them, I don't think it would be the worst advice for me to say. Maybe it wouldn't be, you know, a bad idea to text them and say, look, I know you're upset. I don't know if something has triggered you recently or where this is coming from. Half of this stuff, you know, I don't have anymore, or I'm not even sure what you're referencing.
3 years worth of gifts.
Yeah. This feels very much like you trying to get a rise out of me, or, you know,
you're trying
something.
to make me feel what you feel.
Exactly. And that's not okay.
No.
And I'm sorry that this didn't work out, and I love you, but I think that you need to sit with why you're asking me this.
I would send him a picture of me with all the gifts.
With another man in the background. This is very obviously him acting from a place of anger.
I think your friends are so on the nose with this.
I will say, you don't have to do that. You do not have to be the bigger person in a situation. You do not owe him anything. If you want to, you can.
Yeah, if you care about that friendship after.
Yes. But you are well within your rights to block this man.
Yeah, because this guy's not really respecting you at this moment either. And I know that he's processing shit, but like, I don't know. I think it's kind of a red flag to me when somebody processes things in a very extreme way.
Yes.
And I don't know if I want that in a friendship after dating either.
Yeah. And I feel like I have never done this, but I think that I've processed things in an extreme way where I've maybe thought about doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but you have to have the emotional capacity to be like, I can't do that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And move on from the thought.
Those thoughts are so normal, but if you fucking act on it.
He acted on an intrusive thought. He very much
did.
He very much acted on an intrusive thought. That's the kind of intrusive thought you get when somebody breaks your heart, where you're like, okay, should I light their car on fire? Should I have sex with their dad? You know what I mean? It's like you think of these ridiculous things.
What's your worst intrusive thought? Mine's running my car.
I actually do think about that one. It's probably so bad that I wouldn't even say it on the show.
What's your one that's not as bad?
My one that's not as bad is they're so evil. It's not even funny.
Do one.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to cut this out. But I have oftentimes during our worst moments with Kellen thought of
holy shit, dude. I thought you were gonna say like burning my house. That is an intrusive thought.
Absolutely. Yes. I would never, he couldn't do anything except maybe like, you know,
murder me.
I don't know. Yeah. Kill you or something for me to actually do that. But
I completely,
silly, goofy thought.
It's a little, it's intrusive for a reason.
What are you going to do? Yeah. I think blocking this man, is probably the easiest route, and a route that it's not often that I think the easiest route is the best or smartest. This case, it is the easiest. It's the smartest.
Honestly, protect your peace.
Yeah, absolutely.
This man is gonna try to get a rise out of you once again if you interact, I think.
You know, I was just about to say I almost want to go back on my advice because I do worry that you are almost feeding into what he wants.
Yep. He wants a reaction.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck, girly pop. Next question. My girlfriend gets insecure when she's on her period or isn't completely perfectly shaved down there. This is to the point where we have sex a lot less than I would like. Because if there's any in-between time before wax or even the slightest bit of period, we will not engage at all. I genuinely do not care about these things. Bush has never bothered me, king, and I'm a grown man, so periods don't either. I, of course, want her to be comfortable, but I would also like to have sex more often and for her to be more comfortable with me. Any advice?
This makes me so sad for her because she's so falling into societal expectations and like she's so worried about how she's being perceived. And that makes me sad.
It does. It makes me sad too. There's a side of me that's like, well, maybe that's when she's most comfortable, right? And it's like, I get that. Like
But why?
I have a really hard time having sex with Kellen if I haven't showered that day. Like sometimes if I have a really busy day of like work from home, I'll just get right into it, right? And then by like I'll be like, I'll do a night shower. And before I get to my night shower, Kellen will make a move. And it's like, that's not happening. I'm just like not doing that. I just feel very uncomfortable.
Same.
But this sounds like I'm thinking about it from a woman's perspective, and I'm thinking of like period all the way to the end, to the point where you're like maybe using a liner is like for some people 8-9 days, right? And then your hair starts growing back like 4 days after a wax. Like I get what he means by like this is genuinely affecting the amount of sex they're having. Like that's a very small amount of time where you're like, cool, I'm sexy enough to have sex.
But also, I will say, because I'm learning a lot about hormones lately, not all women have increased sex drive during their period.
Yeah.
And maybe she doesn't feel comfortable saying it.
Yeah, maybe she just doesn't want to have sex during her period. That's totally fine. The period one is less worrying to me than the wax one.
Yes.
Especially because I don't want to be that.
Wait, is he saying she's on her period but is also not
like... No,
wax?
Like they're two different things.
Oh,
like she won't have sex on her period and she won't have sex if she has any hair.
Got it.
So I think if I'm like doing the math in my head, that gives them like maybe 7 days a month to have sex. You know what I mean? Like
what if she just doesn't want to have sex with him?
We're not even going to get into that. We cannot even
this
open
sounds like a lot of
can
excuses.
Of worms.
Yes. Okay.
You're
so right.
It's been a very long time. But when I was like in high school and like early college days, I was definitely not having sex with a guy with hair down there. I wasn't.
No.
I have used his razor in the bathroom over the toilet, looking like a gargoyle, shaving it with his awful razor. And I would rather do that than have had sex with him with a little bit of stubble.
Yep. I agree.
I've been there. It's been a very long time, but I've been there.
Yeah, we don't know her age. Because I've been there too.
And I do think this is one of those things that she's going to have to learn for herself. A man could not have convinced me. It just took years of me getting comfortable with myself and confident. And I don't want to be that person, but I'm going to be that person for a second. This is so dangerous for women because it feeds into the idea that you are only sexy when you're young, which is fucked up on a lot of very dark levels that I will not get into on this podcast, but it is very fucked up. And there is this idea behind being completely shaved and that being the only way that you're sexually attractive that is so incredibly
like there's something gross about hair.
Which in turn means there's something gross about womanhood, about being older. And that is so fucked up. And I think
might be about the period too, don't you think?
Absolutely. And we all let that sleep into our minds, this idea of like youth being beauty and those two things, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being mutually exclusive. But I think she's going to have to figure this out for herself. I had to figure it out for myself.
You know what's interesting? That in like the 60s, like a full bush was like sought out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wonder what the change was.
I know when like perfectly primed, pristine vaginas. I don't know, but it's
also I think that a lot of women have a very bad relationship with body hair. I used to shave my arms.
I did too.
And now I'm just like, I'm Hispanic. I don't fucking care if I have body hair. But when I was younger, there wasn't a hair on me.
Yeah. I was a naked mole rat.
Yeah.
And mustache down. Mustache
down.
to toes.
Yes.
Were shaved.
I agree.
Hairless. One thing I will say, because this is, we're getting a lot into it, but there's not a lot of advice here. And there's not a lot of advice to give because, like I said, I think this is something she's going to have to figure out for herself. But I will say one thing that helped me a lot is words of affirmation. And let's say you're in a situation where she's in between waxes and there's a little hair and she's changing in front of you or something, being like, I don't know why, it's kind of sexy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Hyping her up.
Hyping it up in a way where you're not being so obvious that it's because you want to have sex. Like, don't even make a move. Just say it and then walk away. Just be like, I don't know why, but it's kind of sexy when you're like in between waxes.
That's so true. I would say to him.
It's like planting seeds.
Yeah. He needs to plant more seeds. I don't know if he does, but he needs to plant more seeds because like if you are only giving words of affirmations or complimenting when you want to have sex or you're horny.
Yeah.
That also sets a bad ground for what she thinks she deserves.
Yeah. And also women see right through that. It's cheap.
Yep.
It's shallow. There's nothing sexier. We just had a friend who's recently single.
Yep.
And he was like, did I not do enough? I like hit on this girl by like essentially just saying like, she looked pretty and I hope I see her again. And then I walked away. And we were like, that is the hottest thing in the entire world.
That's a man written by a woman.
Yes, absolutely. Is a compliment without wanting anything in return. It's so sexy.
That is so true.
And so I think even doing that with your partner is so important. And I think in this case, it's like, it's going to stick with her. All comments our partners make about our physical appearance stick with us, good or bad. And I think little things like that, you know, eventually, hopefully one day they'll kind of start to stick. And she'll be like, oh, like maybe this isn't as like detrimental to my sexiness as I thought it was.
Yeah, hype her up. It's her own journey, but what you can do is hype her up.
Yeah. The period one, I more understand. There might not be a lot you can do in that situation. Not only is it possible she has a low sex drive, we also just feel icky. You know?
I feel mad icky on my period.
And cramps are a thing. And like
you're bloated.
You know, hormones. Sometimes you're in a bad mood. It's just like there's a possibility she's just never going to be down for that, and that's okay. Respect to you for being cool with it, but like sometimes that's totally just an us thing. Next question. My husband has an ex-girlfriend he is still civil/friendly with. She lives in a different state, and they will randomly text maybe once or twice a year. My husband is super trustworthy, so this is not a relationship that I feel uncomfortable with. It was also years and years ago. Here's my dilemma. The last time she texted him, she used language such as miss you, ! Thinking of you, or hope to see you next time you're in town. She's from his hometown. He and I agree that we don't think she meant anything disrespectful with these texts, but we did get in an argument over language used with someone like an ex, even when it doesn't mean anything. He says context is important. She didn't mean anything by it. She respects the relationship. Therefore, it's not a big deal. I disagree and wouldn't speak to a married ex like that, even if we were friendly and I had no ill intentions. What are your thoughts? I have thoughts.
Go for it.
I completely agree.
With who?
With the wife.
Okay.
I do. And I am a big believer.
Does it depend on... Okay, so I would never say thinking of you, but I do say miss you to my friends.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think miss you ! Does not feel disrespectful to me.
Yeah.
That does not feel like language that like needs
or
to have a boundary check.
I miss you feels bad.
Yeah.
I miss you. No.
There's a difference. There's a difference. We hate to say it. We hate to like, you know, harp on these little things, but there is such a difference. At the end of the day, people are always like, oh, it's a text and we misconstrued. Assuming we're all, you know, either millennials or like Gen Z, we understand the implications of text. We understand the implications of emojis. We understand the implications of an exclamation point. They matter.
Say it doesn't matter. What?
Exclamation points matter.
I miss you is so different than miss you.
Yeah. I miss you, period, from an ex is so different.
That's
than
hard, yeah.
Miss you, ! Hope to see you next time you're in town. Maybe we can catch up. Listen, there is a possibility that there's a world in which both of those things mean the same thing, and they're both saying, I want to fuck you.
That's not my world.
Fuck your wife. But I do think that they are taken different ways, and I think that it's okay for you to be uncomfortable with language, even with the context that the person doesn't mean anything by it.
It also depends on how your partner's replying.
Absolutely. But if we're just talking language here, should she be uncomfortable with the language used, even under the context that they barely speak and that it doesn't mean anything? My answer is I think it's totally fine to feel uncomfortable with that. And again, I feel like I'm friends with exes.
Yeah.
I am so friends with some exes that I have had them on the show.
Yep.
That they are friends with Kellen. It is so friendly. It is so kosher, those relationships. Yep. Even those relationships, I'm hyper aware of how I'm speaking to them.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm hyper aware of how they're speaking to me.
Yep.
And if I ever had even the slightest inclination that a text could be read, even with context that it didn't mean anything, and it might, strike even the smallest nerve of my partner.
Like if my partner was reading this, they would be uncomfortable.
I'm shutting that shit down. I'm shutting that shit down so quick. And I think it's okay. Language is important, even with context.
How come the word I is so important? Like, I love you means more to me than love you. We get into this all the time.
Yes.
Where I'll say I love you instead of love you.
I don't know what it is.
I miss you, miss you.
I couldn't tell you exactly.
It personifies it.
Why it makes it. Yeah, maybe that's it. But I know how the difference feels when I'm reading one or the other. And that's enough. That's enough.
I also don't believe that people don't realize what they're texting.
That's fair.
I don't believe that. I think that if you are in your 20s, 30s, whatever, I don't really know about 40s, you know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't buy that.
You think that his ex knows what she's doing?
I think if somebody wrote to my partner and was like, I've been thinking about you, think again.
Yeah. Think again.
Think again.
Think again. I agree. And it's one of those things that, like, even if, let's say they don't realize, right? Is that the kind of person you want around? That is using language that is making you uncomfortable and they don't even realize they're doing it.
Yeah.
This is a strong word, but that ignorance is almost just as alarming to me. It's like, okay, well then if you don't even understand these very, very obvious like boundaries and this boundary language you should be using with partners who are married or couples, especially when there's already the weight of you being an ex, you're maybe not emotionally mature enough that I think that you should be in our lives.
Yeah, I think for me, if somebody wrote to my partner was like, miss you, like, when are you in town next? Would love to like grab a coffee. I wouldn't care. But it also depends on the ex. And it also depends on if I saw the text and I felt funny about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with my partner going to get coffee with an ex-girlfriend who's just in town. I do think something's wrong with if they're not showing me the text.
That's true.
Based on like how it's said.
That's true.
And also the eyes. I'm going to be honest. The eyes mean a lot to me.
The eyes mean a lot. Yeah. I think what I'm trying to say is, what I think we're on the same page on is language is important.
Yep.
Even with the context that it's been years, even with the context that they only talk once every 2 years, even with the context that like they might not meet anything, maybe they have a partner too.
How you say things is important.
How you say things is important.
Especially if another person is attached to you.
I consider those things when I'm texting someone. If I'm friends with an ex and they have a partner, I'm very aware of how I'm texting them. I am. And doesn't mean that I'm like secretly in love with them or anything. At the end of the day, there is weight in an ex. And that doesn't mean you can't be friends with them, but you just have to navigate it differently.
How about heart emojis?
In what world are you using a heart emoji?
Like,
I might use a heart emoji. Absolutely not. The only time I would say I'd be cool with a heart emoji is like maybe at the end of like a happy birthday. Yeah. Happy birthday, exclamation heart.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
To keep it super light, I'll send the hand one.
Yes. That's a good idea.
I don't send the fucking red.
No way.
You know how much I love you based on what
kind of heart?
Yeah, which kind of heart
I get
emoji.
red hearts.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do think language matters. I will say I can see why. I shouldn't say I can see. Yeah, I will say it. I can see why your husband doesn't. I can see the through line. I don't agree with it, but I can see why someone would be like, well, if it doesn't, especially hetero men, why if they don't mean anything by it, why does it matter? You know what I mean? They're very like, they kind of like take context so important.
No, I have something to say about hetero men. I think they're playing us. I don't buy this shtick that a man isn't smart enough to see certain things, but can run a country, but can fucking get the stocks up, bro, and fucking run a company and
They're
shit.
bimbofying their emotions.
They're bimbofying their emotions because they know that you care. So if they say, yeah, I see that, they're gonna be like, all right, I guess we're fighting now.
Yeah, this is another boundary I have to put now. This is another thing I have to think about.
I don't buy it, to be honest. How come you're dumb in some situations, but you know how to fucking do this?
You're not wrong.
Listen, as a bimbo, as somebody that loves to take out her bimbo-ness when it is good for me or works for me, I don't buy it.
I respect that. And I do think there's something to be said about someone not wanting to admit.
I think men are smarter than they lead
because
on.
Then they're like, okay, well, what's next? Do I have to cut off this friendship? They just don't even want to, even if the friendship isn't important to them, they just don't want to have to deal with it
because it wasn't their choice.
Yeah.
It's your partner's choice.
You have a right to be, I don't know if you have a right to be, angry is a strong word. You have a right to be uncomfortable, and you have a right to voice that, and you have a right to push for your husband to respect your comfortability.
I don't think it should be a screaming fight.
Right.
But I think that
does he need to block this person? No.
Yeah.
Should he maybe not respond or say, yeah, cool, I'll let you know?
Should he maybe think twice next time?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Next question.
We're so good at this.
We really are. This is the last question of the episode, by the way. I kind of want to explore kink and spicing up my sex life and opening up myself up to new fun sexual things. The problem is I'm traditionally vanilla and I have literally no idea where to start.
Honestly, I feel this.
Yes, actually, this makes a lot of sense for you.
Yeah.
I think, first of all, this is exciting. This is a good thing. Yep. This is not a scary thing or a bad thing. This is cool.
Pretend I wrote that.
Yeah. I think it's very cool and exciting that you have decided you want to trying something new anytime for any reason in any situation, sexual or not, is fun and exciting.
And it's the first step.
It's the first step. And I always say this in situations like this feeling you have right now, this is the scariest it's going to feel. And this is for lack of a better word, this is the dumbest you're going to feel.
Yeah.
Every moment from this point on, you are only going to get more knowledgeable and less scared and more confident. This is the hardest it's going to be is right now.
Does this person have a partner?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
What advice would you give to somebody that has a partner and who doesn't have a partner? Because I think that those are two very different people.
Yeah. I think, I guess I'll go partnered first, and I'll say easiest, most low-hanging fruit answer is bondage.
Yep.
Bondage is a really, really, really fun entry into BDSM. Without having to get super into, hard limits and aftercare and, serious, really, really discussed boundaries.
It's beginner friendly.
That stuff is important, but it's beginner friendly. Using a tie, using handcuffs from your local sex shop seems really, really simple, but that is technically an aspect of kink. It's a very easy way to get into it.
Also, I think that as somebody that's delving into this now, I think it is a fun little date to go to the sex shop together.
Absolutely.
And to pick things out.
Absolutely.
Together.
Completely. Spanking is one of those things that seems really normal because of porn and media, but there are people who have gone their whole lives without being spanked.
Yeah, you're so right.
Spanking, using a spatula, using a wooden spoon. These are things that seem really, really low level, but if you are ultra vanilla, it's a fun way to kind of see, do I like pain? A little bit of pain.
Lightly choking.
Do I like the feeling of not being able to get out of these?
Yeah.
Do I like the feeling of being restricted? It's a good way to kind of figure out, navigate feelings.
I think it's also about baby steps because you don't want to go super from one end of very vanilla to an extreme because then you'll maybe freak yourself out.
I agree.
And it just won't.
Start slow with anything new. Start slow. For somebody who's single, there are, in person, but especially online, a plethora of kink beginner classes, of sex positive classes. I see them. We live in LA, very sex positive. But I pass sex stores all the time. Next week, after hours, we're doing a blowjob workshop.
Oh, I love
that. Things like that. There are, and if you can't find them, if you're in a smaller town, they exist online. I think that classes are really helpful and very low.
Yeah.
You know, there's a low barrier to entry. You don't have to worry. You're not
also,
naked.
You're with people that also are like you.
Exactly. They wouldn't be in that class if they weren't new. So definitely explore local sex positive classes. A lot of times this is a little bit higher, but a lot of times even dungeons have beginner playrooms where they understand that you are new to this and they take it a little easy on you. So, you know, that's a little bit scarier. If the word dungeon is even already kind of bringing up a feeling for you, maybe take a class. But there are a lot of times places, most dungeons that are run professionally are very aware of somebody who's new to kink, and they want to make you as comfortable as possible because they want you to enjoy your experience.
Yep. Google's your best friend here.
Exactly.
Maybe there's a Groupon for a dungeon.
Another good one, I think, and I think this can go toward people who are partnered or people who are just having casual sex, even just dominating for the first time if you've never done that.
Yeah.
And that goes for, you know, men and women and anybody else on the spectrum. You know, telling your partner with words what you want them to do, what position you want to do next. You know, riding your partner, being on top for a lot of women is terrifying.
Yeah.
That even transcends vanilla sex. Just practicing like dominance and how that feels for you.
And practicing your confidence within your own body and what you like as
Absolutely.
well. Like, you don't even have to see it as like something with I'm speaking as somebody with a partner. See it as something with your partner. Just focusing on like, what do I want out of this experience?
Absolutely.
And how do I share that with this person?
Yeah. So yeah, practicing like very simple ways of dominance and submission, being tied up, telling your partner what you want to do, being on top, you know, being at the bottom, whatever the case is, just kind of like exploring these little things. And then my last thing is, what did I do? Oh yeah. Another very like kind of obvious aspect of kink other than like BDSM is voyeurism, right?
Yep.
And there are ways to kind of like practice if you like that are very simple. A good example is like cam sites because you're not being shown, but you are watching a live person. That's an aspect of voyeurism. And there are couples and there are, you know, people who are just masturbating. There's all different types of cam websites that you can go on and kind of see, do I like watching this? You know what I mean? Am I enjoying this? That's an aspect of voyeurism. Even if you're partnered, watching your partner masturbate or having them watch you masturbate.
You have to try things to see if you even like them.
Yeah, exactly. But that's an aspect of voyeurism, is even just masturbating in front of your partner. How does that feel? Car sex is another really good example. There are a lot of aspects of kink that I think people don't realize are aspects of kink that are not that scary.
Because we think they're so
exactly
up here.
Exactly. I talked about this on my last episode about how vanilla sex is kind of looked down upon now, and kink has become so popular with like, you know, movies and TV shows, 50 Shades of Grey, which is ridiculous, but it's like it's made us think that you're either, you know, you're vanilla if you're doing all of this stuff, and then you're kinky if you're like in a torture chamber with your arms and legs tied up, being like so zapped in the balls. It's so extreme. When in reality, there's a very low barrier entry to kink, and it involves spanking, and it involves dominating your partner, and it involves being tied up, and it involves voyeurism. These very kind of like easier things that are kind of like, I think for somebody who's very new, it's like you can wrap your head around those things. Yeah. So that's that on that.
I love that. That was so informative.
Thank you. This was a great episode.
That was so good.
A big, a wide variety of questions.
And that's what we love.
We love variety over here.
We love variety.
That was that good for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give it a like. If you're on YouTube, give it a good rating. It really helps me out. And we will see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.